Going. Everybody get the announcement? I don't get the announcement. All right, cool. Welcome to SIG Network's regular meeting. This is Thursday, August 4th. I'm your host, Tim. As usual, we are subject to the code of conduct, which basically boils down to don't be jerks, be excellent to each other. That said, we have a fairly slim agenda today. So let's start with Triage, which I have queued up. Let me go ahead and share that. Where did I put it? Where's my share? Oh, there's it's the big green button. Share screen. And window. And make sure I get the right one. Yep. Everybody got that? All right. So let's start with the newest first, which came in 12 hours ago, just missing the first round of triage that myself and others did yesterday afternoon. So node part, I've not read this one. So let's read this maybe quickly as a group. Or Antonio, you can give us a brief since I know you read it.
Remember. So previously we have a process in the queue process, and when you open a node port, they hold the socket. If you hold the socket, nobody can take it in the host. So it seems that since we no longer hold the socket, any process in the host can use this port as source port. And what I think that may happen is that some processes using this node port as source port, sending a request, and something is happening with the IP tables in the node port that is causing the connection to break. But this is the theory.
I see. So if they select a node port as an ephemeral port,
right,
then their responses will never come back.
But now when I was saying it,
what is the default for ephemeral ports?
You have the CTL's names in the issue. And now that I mentioned it, when you create the connection, I mean, maybe this doesn't happen always. When you create the connection, IP table have to track the connection, right?
I mean, on your, yes.
But well, I mean, maybe.
But IP tables will still. Good question.
This is a nice exercise for someone that wants to go deep into IP tables and all this stuff. To reproduce this.
Track the connection, but that's totally separate from the kernel's list of what sockets are in use and should not be ephemerally assigned.
Yeah, but the contract table is the one that you use, not uses to reverse the connection. So the thing is, what happens when you created the connection and you create an IP table rules that is redirecting to
look, on my, at least on my machine, so I guess this is a question for maybe everybody can cross-check it. When I look at the sysctl for local port range, it's configured by default to be 32.768 to 61K. So it shouldn't, anything that is used by node ports shouldn't be covered by the ephemeral range, but I don't know how every other distro sets that up.
No, that's
he's mentioning. Go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say that's basically right. When we were talking about getting rid of the code, we pointed out that the default value of the node port range and the default value of the ephemeral port range do not overlap. And as long as you don't change that, everything will work. But if you do change that, then you can possibly break.
Yeah, but that's. I think that he is mentioning that they have to extend the node port range or something like that.
Is that in there? Sorry, I was just pasting my notes.
Yeah, they are using a low range for node ports.
We use a lot of node ports, so it is inconvenient to modify. What is IP local reserved ports? I know that one. Empty on my machine. I don't even know what that file is. That's this Cuddle S4. Use a lot of node ports, so it is inconvenient to modify. That I don't understand what that means. They don't want.
Those are the six CTL centers that handle the ephemeral port range.
Yeah, it's just not clear what they've got them set to. Okay, so
I know what I understand is that he wants to say, I just don't want to do work with the 6 CTLs. I don't want to manage the CTLs myself.
Yeah, but he also said I use a lot of node ports, so that makes me think maybe they changed the default node port range.
Yeah, because the example is using the 30,000 whatever. So okay. Assign to me. I want to play with this, and I will.
38.
Because
so they did extend it because they're using 38068 here, right? So that's more than 32K.
But if that's the case, we need to do a warning or something, right? To say this is going to happen if you do that.
Yeah, they should extend it down instead of up. We should document that or something. So I would like to say, like, I would love for us to hold those ports and not let people use them, right? Like that would be great. But the code to do it was so fraught that, you know, it was better to just get rid of it.
We can do the 6 CTL and well, but you cannot override the IP local response.
So here's what I'll do. I'll assign to you, but I will also add a response myself. Actually, I'll copy myself on that. Anybody else wants to be on this one? Yeah. Okay. All right, you got it. Let's dig into it and see if we can figure out a good answer here. Cool. I wish there was a better way, like BPF or something, to say block this port, consume this port, but don't leave a process running on it, right? All right, next. For dual stack deployments, node addresses show only one IP if node IP parameter is passed.
This, I think they're complaining about the kubectl backward compatibility.
I reply it below because the example that he's pasting there, he's saying that it only happens if they have Cube 124 and Cloud OpenStack 124. So they need to check. I mean, if the only difference is with the cloud provider OpenStack, they should check the cloud provider, right?
Oh, there was a change to node IP behavior with external cloud providers. Assign this to me. I may reassign it to cloud SIG.
Is this one that you were discussing with the annotation?
Yeah.
Okay, you got it. Next, API server crashes with dual stack Ciders if the primary range does not match Kubernetes default. So I responded a little bit to this one. What they showed me was they ended up with this. So they configured their cluster with service cluster IP range v6, then v4. But they also added advertise address as an IPv4 address. So our API server helpfully created the Kubernetes service, set it to single stack as it should be, set it to IPv6 because that is the first family, which got allocated an IPv6 address, but no selector. And then we went and we wrote an IPv4 endpoint because that's what they told us to advertise. So the question, this seems clearly wrong. The question then is, should we try to, where's my response here? Should we try to use the secondary range, the non-primary range, when we recognize that advertise address is v4 in this particular case? Or should we just say, hey, whoa, you can't set an advertise address that isn't the same family as the primary service family.
The
Either
problem
one
is
would be
that-
better. Go ahead.
The problem is that there is a lot of assumptions on the advertised address, and this happened in OpenShift. I think that every week we had a bug like this. Cluster doesn't boot, people spinning around checking logs until someone check it, then we ship or I check it. You have the service in the other way around. So that's why we failed fast.
So
Because
oh.
and Dan is going to fix it.
So there's a pending still pre-alpha cap on dual stack API server, which covers some of this and what sort of validation we ought to be adding to API server arguments. So you could assign this to me.
I could.
There's a theoretical sneaky bit with advertising address, which is that somebody might point advertise address to a proxy server, which translates between IPv6 and IPv4. I'm not completely convinced that that wouldn't work, but
no, that would probably work. Yeah. So, I mean, my feeling in looking at this, if I was a user, I would expect it to try to use the non-primary range when setting up the API server service, the Kubernetes default service, because I feel like advertise address is a more powerful config, and so it's worth, in that case, sort of being adaptable. We have the usual problems of what if two API servers have different configs, but this doesn't make that better or worse. Okay, the two of you are assigned. If you think it's actionable, I forget who actually wrote that code. I think it was you, Antonio. But if you think it's actionable, like we could just write a bug that says, hey, this is the place that we need to change it and mark it help wanted. We have a lot of people who are looking for actionable bugs if we just tell them where to go.
This involves lots of really ugly code.
I recommend rewrite kubeproxy before doing this. Or
okay, all right then. Well, then it's yours. If you confirm which one you think is the correct path to go, then I'm happy with either path.
The problem is that there is a lot of tooling kubeadmin and a lot of things depending on this order, and you never know who is going to break with the advertised address thing.
If it all right, well, let's take it to the bug. Let's move forward. Here we have a bug report that is centered on customize that I don't really understand what the report is saying. Something about labels not working properly with network policy with customize. They have a suspicious label, which is an integer value, so it's quoted, but I don't really understand what's not working. So I was responding a little bit with the poster. So was Dan Williams. Oh, he just assigned to you, Antonio. So I can assign it to myself. I'll take this one. This one is someone complaining that there is no external DNS node address for them. And Dan Williams correctly cites that it's not a requirement that it be provided. So I asked for a little bit more information, see if we can help this person, but I think it's not a bug here. Let me add myself. And I don't know anything really about MongoDB, so I don't know what it is they're trying to do, but it sounds like the Mongo docs are making some assumptions that maybe they can't. And then the last one is this oldie about documenting the intentions for the source ranges discussion. I just left it up just to say, it's been a long issue, but it's still open. And that's it for triage. So I will, whoops, how do I stop sharing? Where's the stop sharing button?
You're good. You're not sharing at this
Oh,
point.
I'm not sharing. Why the hell am I not sharing? I thought
You
I was
just
sharing.
stopped.
Oh.
You were, and you stopped successfully.
I don't know how I stopped. I must have accidentally hit the button. Okay. That's good to know. All right. So agenda, triage. So Bowie is number 1 on the agenda. Bowie, you have an issue number. Are you here?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, are you presenting?
I'm not presenting. Do you want to present? Or do you want me to present this?
Yeah, I think I don't want to mess up the meeting.
Okay.
So basically the issue I filed was that qproxy, there's a race condition where qproxy may start up, read a node, look at its pod cider, cache that value, and then unfortunately, sometimes the node actually gets deleted and recreated with a different pod cider out from under qproxy. What happens in this case is that unfortunately qproxy is also still running, and now everything's messed up. It has basically an inconsistent state. The general, I think there was some discussion here about whether or not, I think it was from Dan, whether or not this is an actual bug versus like, don't do that with nodes. Unfortunately, that is the behavior of certain unnamed major cloud provider. So like, it seems bad to have qproxy just keep running with stale information when it can clearly tell that it's stale.
But there is one thing that during the review we find out is the node event handlers are not working unless you have the topology aware hints feature. But this is another thing that Alexander here, he is going to add a new feature to qproxy that needs the node event handlers. So we have a this is not going to be a bug now because it's feature gated. When Alessandro adds his code, this is going to be a bug if we demonstrate to Dan that this happens with the nodes. And well,
But we can just change the, make the node handler get invoked regardless of the topology feature gate. Like that's not difficult. It only runs when topology is enabled right now because that's the only thing that handler is used for.
right.
Yeah, I was going to say that if topology graduates, wouldn't we just have it on all the time, period?
Yeah, I'm just, highlighting the new findings and setting the timelines because Alexander that is here is going to use this handler too. So I don't know how do you want to do it.
I see. So it seems like the PR needs to both enable the node informer all the time, and then in addition to this, it also sounds like this is like what sequence we want us to go, because this is basically a bug fix of sorts, not a feature, but the other one is like a feature.
That's I'm up to whatever you decide.
Do we understand why a cloud provider is doing this?
Yes,
like
Tim.
we do. Is it us? Are we doing this? Oh,
yes.
Man, that seems like a bad idea. Okay, you can fill me in on why we're doing it if you want. On my long list of docs that I meant to write was something about node identity, and in particular, it was if you have a node that is named, X in the Kubernetes API, and you do something to that node such that it changes its IP, its pod ciders, or it loses volumes, or I had a list of like 5 things that you do, then it's really not X, and you shouldn't bring it back as X. And it sounds like we're strictly in violation of that theory.
Well, it's worse than that though, because it's actually deleting the node and bringing it back without killing any of the components running on the node.
Yeah, exactly. Without even turning the node off, it sounds like, huh?
Yeah, so like, it's actually slightly different. If anyone encounters this, it's because the node actually was rebooted, but there's a stale resource, and qproxy runs before kubelet is able to update it. So that's how the race happens, at least in our case, versus the kubelet is running and somehow it gets like redone.
If you can describe the scenario and we can attest, that will be much better.
Yeah, it's a little bit complicated, but basically imagine like kubeproxy somehow gets ahead of kubelet updating the node resource.
Right.
So this happens, okay. So the node is, okay, I understand now.
Yeah, kubeproxy is running while the old node object exists in Kubernetes API and has not been removed yet. And then new node object gets created, but kubeproxy doesn't see it.
Well,
Couldn't the thing that reboots the node also delete the node object first?
There's a race because let's say the VM just gets power cycled.
Yeah, this is specific to preemptable VMs, which just disappear with next to zero warning.
Where is it? I don't see it.
And what are the other scenarios that you were thinking about, Dan? Because you say that if we want to add node, we need to check more.
I mean,
More
like
race.
what Tim was saying, like, you know, the pod IP, or sorry, the node IPs. Like, I remember there was this problem with OpenShift years ago involving VMware, where people would delete a node and then bring it back, and like it would get assigned a different IP that time, and in that case, we were failing even when things did get restarted. But you know, eventually we fixed that. But it was just like impossible, well, not impossible, but really annoying to make it work if the components were still running, you know, across the change, and so we never tried to make that work.
Yeah, sorry, I had a little distraction. This was somebody said it was preemptable VMs, right? Yeah. Okay, I remember having this argument with those folks. Okay. So is the real fix here just to fix the node handlers, and then kubeproxy will just adjust, even though this is not a great idea, it'll work?
No, what I did is I added logic to crash kubeproxy if it doesn't match the pod
Okay.
cider.
So then it'll just restart and resync.
Yeah.
I think that's the safest thing because, you know, trying to like somehow like repatch everything, that sounds like really complicated. You might as well run the whole initialization from top to bottom.
I agree. Having looked at Dan's minimizing IP tables rights PR, I can imagine these two things intersect badly. You have to reevaluate everything that made an local assessment.
Actually, no. Whenever we get a node update, it sets the needs full sync flag because any topology change would require a complete rewrite.
That's right. Okay. Okay. All right. So do we have what we need to move forward?
Yeah. Last question is: we want this for now or for 125?
I think we would want this in 24 and 23, right? If we can make a surgical fix.
But the surgical fix is or with the feature gate or without the feature gate?
Which feature gate?
So this only happens if you have the feature gate enabled.
I see, like a unrelated feature gate.
So what you're saying, Antonio, is that we should just tie this functionality to the topology feature gate, so we're not adding a net. Or
No.
We should just make it so that the node handlers are added no matter what, but normally they don't do anything unless the topology feature gate is enabled, except that they handle this one case of restarting. Like,
yes.
Yeah, that would be my recommendation. Okay. We do need to evaluate how like more surgical we can make that informer enablement is, because it doesn't watch all nodes, it just watches like a single node or something.
Yeah, it just watches same node.
Okay, then that seems to be reasonably contained.
Okay, then I got it. I will tomorrow, or I will do it.
Okay, and I think we should propose it for a backport for 24 and 23. Okay. All right. Next on the agenda is exceptions that need review. So we hit code freeze this week. Long live code freeze. We have a couple that seem like they need exceptions, which I will try to look at today. But I'm going to be honest, my day is slammed today, and I'm on a plane tomorrow at 8 a.m. So to Hawaii. So goodbye. So I could use help reviewing these exceptions. I'm going to try desperately to look at them today. But if anybody here can look at them and help build confidence in them, that would be great.
How many do we have?
I see 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, that's a lot.
So let me look at them. The first one is Alexander's.
Yeah.
Is this, did I approve this one?
No, this is a different one that I realized this morning when Antonio reviewed my follow-up kube proxy change that I wanted to do for the HC. I realized that, in fact, we've introduced a regression, I think, which is specifically around the fact that now, whenever there's an unschedulable node, we will also remove it from the LB set. And Clayton raised a PR a couple of years back where he explicitly removed the schedulability predicate from having any impact on the LB set.
Okay.
Specifically because it created a production outage. And looking through his PR and his reasoning, I kind of realized that, yeah, it's completely normal because schedulability just says that you can't place any new nodes on a given node.
That's right.
So if you have a pod running on node X with a load balancer associated with it, and it goes unschedulable, that pod will still be there, but now we move that node from the LB set, and so we just screwed its ingress completely. So
okay. So this looks like
very minor. So the fix that I did, actually, there's another thing. The reason why we got confused about it was because the schedulability was a part of the update predicate that decides on whether we should actually sync the node in the update function.
Right.
And that was added by Andrew Sai Kim after Clayton, but he didn't really give a good reason as to why that attribute has any meaning at all. So this fix is removing the schedulability predicate from the CCM because I didn't see a reason to have it, and I thought Clayton's reasoning was proven and logical, so that's why.
Okay, I will take a look at this today. The code change is small, the test change is bigger, but
yeah.
That's
but it's
okay.
Just removing the test cases we just added a day ago.
Okay, and then we have 2 from Sarvesh. Are you here?
Yeah. Hi. So I did just get an exception till Monday for getting this merged. So I think the API change, Tim, you have already reviewed most of it, just like need a final +1. And for the controller change, I think Bove and Antonio both have been reviewing it. Antonio has some suggestion to make it level driven, but I'm a bit nervous to make the change at this very last minute. But yeah, most of the PR is reviewed already. So I just need a final review, and then hopefully we can get it merged.
Okay, so I want to be careful that we don't set the bar super high for things that are completely alpha gated. Like the point of alpha is to be able to try stuff out and make incremental progress. So I'll look at this. I'll mostly be looking for confidence in the gate, and that can let us move forward. So I'll try to look at that today, but if I can't give it a super deep review, then I will approve, and I'll leave the LGTM to Antonio. Oh, wait, you're in Europe, so you're going to go to sleep soon. I'll leave the final LGTM to either Antonio or Bowie.
Sure. Thank you.
I hate when Antonio's responding to PRs, and I know it's 3 in the morning there.
No, I'm not 3 in the morning.
Okay, 1 in the morning.
Yeah, that can be.
Yeah, you're a bad example. Okay, and then the last one is oh, sorry, one question. Sarvesh, is the implementation inclusive of the API PR, or are they discrete PRs? Like, do we approve both, or do we just?
So they are
Go ahead.
discrete PRs, but I have rebased the implementation over the API PR because I needed to test it out.
Okay, so if we just approve the implementation, then that one PR is complete.
Yeah.
Okay, so we really only need to get approval on 109.090.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll shift my energy to that. Okay.
Sure.
Sorry, and then the last one is Dan's minimize IP tables restore input. I haven't seen. I saw there was updates to it.
So you had suggested doing a mini cap, which I did, and I filed that, and you can.
Oh, you did.
But I was going to say, like, since all of the heavy lifting for this PR has already merged, if we're going to do a feature gate anyway, then could we just throw this in behind a feature gate and get it into 1.25?
Don't we need PRR review? Like adding a mini cap.
If there's actually going to be a cap, yeah.
Yeah.
But why did you say that it's a feature gate, the previous PR? I mean, you did.
So the other thing I said is that if we were going to put this part behind a feature gate, then we could also take the IP table save performance improvement that I did a month or two ago and throw that behind the same feature gate so that, again, if there's a bug in that, it doesn't break everybody.
The distinction there, though, is the IP table save stuff had existing tests that we were confident in that convinced us that you didn't break the tests, right?
No, because it had the existing unit tests that we had added in the previous cycle, but actually IP table save, we don't really test much at all. Like the IP table save patch makes it so that we don't delete stale rules right away, but it shouldn't matter.
I don't.
So that's the thing, that instead of deleting and recreating everything, always you only do that in every sync period, and you have intermediate states.
That's this one, right? Sorry, you're not looking at my screen. The minimize input. Yes.
So that's the IP tables restore one. There's a link in one of my last comments at the bottom of the PR to the IP table save one. You may not have seen that because Antonio ended up reviewing it and it went in while you were busy with other things. So you may have never reviewed that. But basically, we had gotten to the point where the only reason why we run IP table save is so that we can get the list of rules that we need to delete or chains that we need to delete.
Right.
But IP table save can be very slow if you have tons and tons of rules. So I changed it so that if you're in a large cluster, we only do that cleaning up stale rules like once every sync period, instead of doing it on every single sync. And then that saves us from having to run IP table save every time.
I see. I don't think I reviewed that one, but okay, it sounds plausible. But it also does sound scary. Okay. I'll look at this, but honestly, if I were CC, I would be saying no. Like too late to get a new cap in, too much risk at the late point. Did you file an exception for this?
I have not yet. I wanted to get your opinion on it.
Are we in a big hurry? Because I have found that if you get something in to say 1.26 really early, people love that. So instead of being late, you could be super early.
I want this in, I get it. In fact, I talked with some scalability folks this morning and they were like, yeah, that sounds great. But I don't know if we should push this one right now. I talked to CC yesterday about some other ones and she is clearly under a lot of pressure. And I don't want to be that person who makes her say yes to something she doesn't want to. Is it a big deal, Dan, if we just say we're going to save this for 26?
It's not. The only reason I was arguing is, like I said, because the hard part of the PR already merged, or the hard part of the rewrite already merged. And what's left is basically just adding a single if X, then continue.
Well, but like, as I looked at this, I was like, where's the metric that tells me how it's going, right? So like,
I mentioned that in the enhancement that, yeah, we should add metrics. So,
right. Okay. So let's just agree upon it. No, I want a metric that says how often do we actually do the full sync versus the partial sync, and how many we're doing in the partial sync. Like, I don't have any visibility into what this is doing now.
How often do we hit the code path where the partial sync fails and we fall back to a full sync on the next run?
Yeah.
But you have metrics of the IP table rules that you do in each round. Yeah, you do. I added those.
Yes. Yeah, no, we do. It's a sort of ambiguous signal if that number drops in a
Right, now
significant way.
it's weird, yeah.
Right.
I need to check those metrics, how they look like.
So this is the PRR review, right? This is the stuff that we haven't done because it was late in the cycle. I love the PR. I think it's really cleverly done the way you moved all the things around, and then this just becomes a really easy change. But I think we should punt it to 26.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. So I won't focus on that one today then.
Yeah, but what happens with the previous one? Do you want to revert or not?
I didn't look at it. How do you feel about it?
I spent a lot of time on it because Dan was chasing me, and I mean,
That's fine. I mean, if we spent time on it and we've got tests and it's been in for a couple of weeks, then I'm less worried about that. Although I would go back and look at it and see if we need any extra metrics there.
I will check the metrics and send an email to you to verify how they look
like. We could
like.
use additional metrics.
Yeah, and we can get those in after code freeze. That's okay, right? Okay.
No, but okay.
All right. I had thrown the idea that we would look at the KEP dashboard, but maybe we'll see what else. Rob, why don't you go next?
Yeah, this is really quick. I just wanted to mention that we have SIG Network deep dive and intro in KubeCon Detroit this time. It's been a while since we've done one of these. If anyone has content they want to make sure we cover or wants to be more involved, just reach out to me or Bowie. Want to get more diverse perspectives on this. If you want to be more involved, just let us know.
Are you guys going to do the presentation?
Yeah, that's the plan right now.
Okay.
But always open to help.
Yeah, if anybody wants, I love to have shadows on these things. So if anybody else wants to help prepare and do the presentation for this, either on the intro part or the deep dive part, let Rob and Bowie know.
Yeah, and at least in the previous couple that we did, it's very easy. Like you get like 1 or 2 slides, just like a single topic, and that's all that you need to kind of be responsible for.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to see us cover all the cool stuff that we've been doing. Hopefully for 26, we can actually have a story for the topology and the terminating endpoints and all the KEPs that are sort of paused at the moment. I'd love to unpause those and talk about how those are about to make the world a better place. Plus all the gateway stuff, plus all the IP tables minimization stuff, plus like we got a lot of content to talk about. And that's just, things that are on the front of my brain. I'm sure there's a lot more than that. LB set tweaks, like all the stuff that's on my screen right now. Okay, where did I put the agenda? There you are. All right, so we've hit the code freeze, but we haven't hit the 25.0 release. For me personally, I like to take this little time interstitial to look at tech debt and things that we'd like to pay down that are neither new features nor new KEPs. So I wanted to just put it out here that when I get back from my vacation, I intend to just go hunting for some tech debt, low-hanging fruit, stuff that is ugly that we could start queuing up some PRs for, whether that's logging stuff, although Dan, I got to hand it to you, kubeproxy is a much nicer code base than it was 6 months ago. A lot less low-hanging fruit. But just looking around for old issues that we know we want to fix, but we haven't been able to fix, those sorts of things. I would encourage everybody, if you've got a few free cycles and you want to take a breath, I think getting some tech debt pay down in this break makes the next cycle easier to achieve, and we stop accumulating issues. So there's plenty of SIG network tagged issues in the repository. If anybody feels like I want to help, but I don't know what to do, let me know, or I'm sure Antonio can help you find stuff, or Dan or Rob or Bowie. We kind of all know where the bodies are buried. So like they could implement a mirroring controller that goes in the other direction, right, Rob?
The infinite mirroring controller.
or fix kubedns. Something. Anyway, so we've got 14 minutes left. Let's maybe do a quick look at the dashboard and see if there's anything we want to update there. Let me do a share screen again. Share a Chrome tab. Where are you? Can I search? No, I can't search. Oh, great. What's it called? Let's ignore Peps, of course. There we go. Why did my mute go on? It says
you're not muted now.
I'm not now, but is my screen sharing?
Yep.
Yep,
Oh,
we're looking at the caps.
Weird. It gave me a message that said your mic is disabled when sharing something with audio. So I think it detected that a Chrome tab could, in theory, play audio. That's weird. Okay. All right. As long as you can see it and you can hear me at the same time. All right. Let's go backwards from alpha. So I've updated it a few weeks ago, but I want to make sure that I got them all. Did anything that was GA get their gates removed? Did we remove the gates for namespace ingress class? Anybody?
I need to double check. Yeah, I'll get back to you.
Can you double check? Because if so, we can move it out of the.
Yeah.
Oh no, sorry.
Yeah,
This is already in the gate removed column. Sorry, I'm off by one.
Okay.
Gate not removed. All right. Dual stack support is for next cycle. Node ports is next cycle, and load balancer class is next cycle. Okay, cool. Did anything beta go GA? No, this just went beta, right? And internal traffic policy did not. Mixed protocols.
It may just be me, but I can't really see what you're looking at. I can see what I think is probably an old version of your screen.
Yeah,
like
he's not moving it around. It is just the SIG network's caps.
I think it's like it froze or something.
Yeah, so when I hit the button here, it paused my share, I guess. So I don't know how to share and have a microphone at the same time.
Maybe
that is super weird. Pause audio share.
So you did something that made it update. I see now everything from obligated to GA merged.
Can you hear me now?
Can you? Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay,
Can you try scrolling up or down or sideways? Okay, yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
there's a pause button and a pause audio button. Okay. Don't use Chrome Web. All right.
Mixed protocols, I plan on moving that forward in 1.26 as it's my milestone there.
Okay. And gRPC, did that change? It's not milestoned at all. Bowie? Anybody?
I don't think that changed.
Yeah, I don't, as far as I know, nothing happened there.
Okay, so I'll tag it for 26. Topology, are we still looking to move to GA in 26?
Yeah, I was just talking about that. What we need for that is a clearer definition of what we need for GA. My hunch is that we might need to provide a different option for an algorithm and probably make our tests a bit more thorough than they already are. I don't think it's going to be major changes,
Okay.
but we need to actually define that in the KEP somewhere.
Okay. So when the KEP cycle opens, let's make sure we focus on that.
Yep.
I'd love to get this beta column emptied out. All right. Anything alpha that went beta? Network policy status did not. Terminating endpoints did not. And I don't think I saw any PRs for this. These are all tagged for 26. So, okay. And did anything, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, the IP tables cleanup ought to be an alpha gated code is merged, and I thought I had moved it. Maybe I moved it into the wrong column.
There we
And
go.
the admin network policy is merged. I mean, the first V1 alpha one. We're working on docs.
Throw it in there. Excellent. All right. This did not make progress. This did not make progress. We got to figure out what we're really doing there. Dual stack, that's okay. All ports, so rotten. We have to come back to that. IPAM is going alpha, hopefully. Let's leave it here until we get it actually merged. And what else? Let me remove this. Host IPs did not make progress, and prefer did not make progress this cycle. Cool, we got a lot of KEP work to do. Okay, and this one did not make progress. New, no progress on that. Oof. All three rotten. I'm gonna come back to these. Okay. Why is this a new not evaluated tracking terminating endpoints? Didn't we have one for that?
But it has a milestone.
Proxy terminating endpoints. Oh, maybe it just didn't get added to the right column. Okay. Port range, Ricardo, are you here? This did get merged, right? So
He was here. If he dropped off, then you can check with him. But
okay, I'm pretty sure I saw that go in if I didn't approve it myself. Okay, we got a bunch of PRs open against KEP, so we'll have to go look at these too. Okay, that's the KEP dashboard. Looking pretty good. As the KEP window opens, hopefully we don't have a whole too many new ones, and we can spend our energy trying to get these ones moved through. Awesome. Thanks for sticking with me while I figured out how Zoom's new share works. Sorry, Antonio, what?
No. I was checking the dashboard.
Okay.
I think that one is wrong. I will.
Which one? Okay, go ahead.
The one that my my feature is not going to beta. It's not even alpha.
Which one?
The service. Ah, no, it's okay. It's the other one. Okay.
It's in the pre-alpha column, right?
But we have the other one with the reserve IPs. So what's the deal now? Is you spend 2 releases on beta, right, before going GA?
No, you don't have to spend 2 releases in beta.
No, I thought that was the recommendation.
For ones that really do need feedback, yes. So for that one, you might choose to, but it's not a requirement. So, I mean, some are more obvious than others, right? In fact, I want to be more thoughtful about whether some of these even need to go to beta at all, or whether they're just like clearly they could go from alpha with a gate to GA with no gate.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The goal of alpha is to give the rollback ability, but some of them just they don't need to be beta. Like maybe some of the kube proxy cleanups maybe don't need to go to beta.
Yeah, we have these minor things.
Yeah, because like the beta just doesn't really give that much value. If we're confident in it, if we've got tests and everything else, then it's just a code change. It's not a there's no feedback that's going to make us change our minds. Okay.
Question actually about that, Tim. Now that it's changed so that by default beta is not flagged on as instead of how it was flagged down by default in the past.
Oh, did
Are
that
we gonna
actually
have
finally
any-
get committed?
I
but-
remember seeing something about it. Is that
Yeah.
actually true? And if so, does that change anything for us?
But let me explain, because I had the same misunderstanding. So what is disabled by default is the API. The feature gate is enabled by default. So what they are doing is they are not exposing the APIs by default. So you enable whatever feature. The feature gate is better, but if you want to use the API that uses that feature gate, is not published in the API server.
So you also have to tell it to expose v1 beta 1.
Yeah, that's the thing. They want you to explicitly enable that.
Okay.
The feature gate is still enabled.
That's interesting.
Yeah, there's Legit and David it's well.
Yeah. It just seems I'll have to go read that. Okay, we're at time. Anybody else have any other business? All right. Then we will see you all in 2 weeks' time. And if you've got time in the next 2 weeks, let's look at some tech debt pay down. We certainly have some debt. I know we do. It's buried in there somewhere. It's hard to find, I'm sure, but we'll find it.
We don't have to see.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Thanks.